it back, son. Wash it back. Wash it back. Shalom, 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 everybody. Welcome back to Reading with Shilo. Yeah, bear with me. Bear with me. It's my first time streaming this from the phone, but we're gonna see. We're gonna see how this works. I'd rather do it from the laptop, but we're gonna get back into the ancient book of Jasher. The ancient book of Jasher. Watch back, son. Watch back. Watch back. So I can read. We left off on chapter 13, and in this edition, jump. Try to go from 14 to 18. We're gonna try to go from 14 to 18 today. Watch back, son. Excuse me. Excusez-moi. Excusez-moi. Oh man. Excusez-moi. So the ancient book of Jasher, as referenced in Joshua 10 and 13, 2 Samuel 1 and 18, and 2 Timothy 3 and 8. And man, there's stuff going on with Nimrod and Abram. Abram went to there's a lot of Sodom and Gomorrah is coming into the picture. Abram went to back to the land of Canaan at age 87. Age 75, I'm sorry. And now chapter 14 is Pharaoh Rikayon. Pharaoh Rikayon. Pharaoh Rikayon. So when you come in, like, comment, subscribe, tell your people, so we can get this internet better. Whatever. Nah, tell your people if they want to hear about the book of Jasher or any other books that I've read or are reading, let them know. Let them know about it. So, all right. Pharaoh, in those days, there was in the land of Shinar a wise man who had understanding in all wisdom, and of a beautiful, and he was hard set for him to go to Egypt, to Oswiris, the son of Anum, king of Egypt, to show the king his wisdom, for perhaps he might find grace in his sight, to raise him up and give him maintenance. And Rikayon did so. And when Rikayon came to Egypt, he asked the inhabitants of Egypt concerning the king. And the inhabitants of Egypt told him the custom of the king of Egypt. For it was then the custom of the king of Egypt that he went to remain there. And on that day, when the king went forth and passed judgment in the land, and everyone having a suit came before the king that day to obtain his request. And in the evening, Rikayon went out and found a house in ruins, formerly a bakehouse in Egypt. And he abode there all night in bitterness of soul, and pinched with hunger, and sleep was removed from his eyes. And Rikayon considered within himself what he should do in the town until the king made his appearance, and how he might maintain himself there. And he rose in the morning and walked about, and met in his way those who sold vegetables and various sorts of seed, with which they supplied the inhabitants. And Rikayon wished to do the same in order to get a maintenance in the city. But he was unacquainted with the custom of the people, and he was like a blind man among them. And he went and obtained vegetables to sell them for his support. And a rabble assembled about him and ridiculed him, and took his vegetables from him and left him nothing. And he rose up from there in bitterness, reasoned with himself how he could save himself from starvation. And he devised a scheme how to act. And he rose up in the morning and acted ingeniously, and went and hired 30 strong men of the rabble, carrying their war instruments in their hands. And he led them to the top of the Egyptian sepulchre, and he placed them there. And he commanded them, saying, Thus saith the king, strengthen yourselves and be valiant men, and let no man be buried here until 200 pieces of silver be given, and then he may be buried. And those men did according to the order of Rikayon to the people of Egypt for the whole of that year. And on the 8th month, in 8th month's time, Rikayon and his men gathered great riches of silver and gold, and riches them. And when the year came round, at the time of the king went forth into the town, all the inhabitants of Egypt assembled together to speak to him concerning the work of Rikayon and his men. May the king live forever. What is this thou doest in the town of thy servants? Not to suffer a dead body to be buried until so much silver and gold be given. Was there ever the like unto this done in the whole earth? For the days of former kings, yea, even from the days of Adam unto this day, that the dead should not be buried only for a set price. Man, that's saying that Egypt knew about Adam. The king of Egypt knew about Adam. From the days of Adam until this day, that the dead should not be buried only for a set price. But we can no more bear this, for the whole city is ruined on this account. And dost thou not know it? And when the king heard all that they had spoken, he was very wroth, and his anger burned within him at this affair, for he had known nothing of it. And the king said, Who and where is he that dares to do this wicked thing in my land without my command? Surely you will tell me. Surely you will tell me. Anger was aroused, and he ordered Rikayon and his men to be brought before him. And Rikayon took out 1,000 children, sons and daughters, and clothed them in silk and embroidery. And he set them upon horses and sent them to the king by means of his men. And he also took a great quantity of silver and gold and precious stones, and a strong and beautiful horse as a present for the king, with which he came before the king and bowed down to the earth before him. And the present that he had brought to the king. And it greatly pleased the king, and he wondered at it. When Rikayon sat before him, the king asked him concerning all his works. And Rikayon spoke all his words wisely before the king, his servants, and the inhabitants of Egypt. And when the king heard the words of Rikayon and his wisdom, Rikayon found grace in his sight. And he met with grace and kindness from all the servants of the king and from all the inhabitants of Egypt, on account of his wisdom and excellent speeches. And from that time they loved him exceedingly. And the king answered and said to Rikayon, and he called his name Pharaoh. Man, look like it's technical too. We'll watch it and see. Consulted with all the inhabitants of Egypt to make him perfect under the king. And all the inhabitants of Egypt and its wise men did so. And it was made a law in Egypt. And they made Rikayon Pharaoh. And they made Rikayon Pharaoh prefect under Oswiris, king of Egypt. And Rikayon, Pharaoh, governed over Egypt, daily administrating justice to the whole city. But Oswius the king would judge the people of the land one day in the year, when he went out to make his appearance. Second Egyptian dynasty begins. And Rikayon, Pharaoh, cunningly usurped the government of Egypt, and he exacted a tax from all the inhabitants of Egypt. And all the inhabitants of Egypt greatly loved Rikayon, Pharaoh, and they made a decree to call every king that should reign over them and the seed of Egypt Pharaoh. Therefore, all the kings that reigned in Egypt from that time forward were called Pharaoh until this day. Chapter 15. Abram in Egypt, the famine. Abram in Egypt, the famine. 2023 AM, a great famine. And in that year, there was a heavy famine throughout the land of Canaan. And the inhabitants of the land could not remain on account of the famine, for it was very grievous. And Abram and all hold on, excuse me. Of the road. And Abram at the border of the brook Mizraim. And Abram beheld his wife Sarai, that she was very beautiful. And Abram said to his wife Sarai, since God has created thee with such a beautiful countenance, I am afraid of the Egyptians, lest they should slay me and take thee away. For the fear of God is to all that may ask thee, in order that it may be well with me. I don't know if we're going to make it, man. I don't know if we're gonna make it through 18. The way this phone looking. Everybody just read this. 17, and I go back and correct it, and come back later and read. Come back later and read 18. We are at verse 7. And yet with all these orders, Abram did not put confidence in them, but he took Sarai and placed her in a chest and concealed it amongst their vessels. For Abram was greatly concerned about Sarai on account of the wickedness of the Egyptians. And Abram and all belonging to him rose up from the brook Mizraim and came to Egypt. And they had scarcely entered the gates of the city when the guards stood up to them, saying, give tithe to the guards, give tithe to the king from what you have, and then you may come into the town. And Abram and those that were with him did so. And Abram with the people that came to Egypt, and when they came, they brought the chest in which Sarai was concealed, and the Egyptians saw the chest. And the king's servants approached Abram, saying, what hast thou here in this chest, which we have not seen? Open thou the chest and give tithe. Not open, but all you. It is a chest of precious stones. Give us the tenth thereof. Abram said, all that you desire I will give, but you must not open. And they reached the chest and opened it with force. And they saw, and behold, a beautiful woman was in the chest. And when the officers of the king beheld Sarai, they were struck with admiration to her at her beauty. And all the princes and servants of Pharaoh assembled to see Sarai. For she was very beautiful. And the king's officers ran and told Pharaoh all that they had seen, and they praised Sarai to the king. And Pharaoh ordered her to be brought. And the woman came before the king.
Me too. Me too. Me too, Daddy. Me too. Me too, Daddy. Me too.
All right, you good? And Pharaoh beheld Sarai, and she pleased him exceedingly, and he was struck with her beauty. And the king rejoiced greatly on her account, and made presents to those who brought him the tidings concerning her. And the woman was then brought to Pharaoh's house, and Abram grieved on account of his wife, and he prayed to the Lord to deliver her from the hands of Pharaoh. And Sarai also prayed at that time and said, O Lord God, thou didst tell my lord Abram to go from his land and from his father's house to the land of Canaan. And thou didst promise to do well with him if he commandest. And we left our land and our families, and we went to a strange land and to a people whom we have not known before. And we came to this land to avoid the famine, and this evil accident has befallen me. Now therefore, O Lord God, deliver us and save us from the hand of this oppressor, and do well with me for the sake of thy mercy. And the Lord hearkened to the voice of Sarai, and the Lord sent an angel to deliver Sarai from the power of the people. To deliver Sarai from the power of the people. From the power handing over them. From the power handing over them. And he appeared to Sarai and said to her, do not fear. And he appeared to Sarai and said to her, do not fear, for the Lord has heard thy prayer. And the king approached Sarai and said to her, what is that man that to thee who brought thee hither? And she said, he is my brother. And the king said, it is incumbent upon us, incumbent. I've heard this word incumbent, but only to political stuff, political things. Let's see. Yes, sir. That's me up there yawning. It's not good. It's not good all that yawning on the camera. Incumbent. There's an incumbent. Incumbent. A holder of any office. A holder of any office. Let me out.
What is Daddy?
The sleep monster.
Ow.
Yes, sir. He's on my back.
Ow. Ow.
So the sleep monster is on my back. Let's finish. And the king said, it is incumbent upon us to make him great, to elevate him, and to do unto him all the good which thou shalt command us. And at that time, the king sent to Abram silver and gold, and precious stones in abundance. Shalom. Precious stones in abundance, together with cattle, men servants and maid servants. And the king ordered Abram to be brought, and he sat in the court of the king's house. And the king greatly exalted Abram on that night. And the king approached to speak it to Sarai, and he reached out his hand to touch her when the angel smote him heavily, and he was terrified, and he refrained from reaching to her. And when the king came near Sarai, the angel smote him to the ground, and acted thus to him the whole night, and the king was terrified. And the angel on that night smote heavily at the servants of the king and his whole household on account of Sarai. And there was a great. And Pharaoh, seeing the evil that befell him, said, surely on account of this woman has this thing happened to me. And he removed himself at some distance from her and spoke pleasing words to her. And the king said to Sarai, tell me, I pray thee, concerning the man with whom thou camest here. And Sarai said, this man is my husband. And I said to thee that he was my brother, for I was afraid lest thou shouldest put him to death through wickedness. And the king kept away from Sarai, and the plagues of the angel of the Lord ceased from him and his household. And Pharaoh knew that he was smitten on account of Sarai, and the king was greatly astonished at this. And in the morning the king called for Abram and said to him, what is this thou hast done to me? Why didst thou say, she is my sister, owing to which I took her unto me for a wife? I guess it's supposed to be knowing. Let's see. O-W-I-N-G. O-W-I-N-G. Is that a word? Owing. I think owing is O-W-E. Come on, sucker.
He helping you. He helping you. He helping you.
Owing. W-I-N-G. To have an obligation to pay or repay. To be or feel obliged. To be in debt. I guess I was wrong on the spelling.
What spelling is, Daddy?
The spelling of the word. What is this? Just kill him. Ooh, die.
What's that?
A bug.
A bug on the window?
Yes, a bug on the window, but I killed him. I killed him.
You see that?
Yes, sir. He up there. Now let me finish reading, sir. Owing to which I took her unto me for a wife, and this heavy plague was therefore come upon me in my household. Now therefore here is thy wife. Take her and go from our land, lest we all die on her account. And Pharaoh took men servants and maid servants and silver and gold to give to Abram, and he returned unto him Sarai his wife. And the king took a maiden whom he begat by his concubines, and he gave her to Sarai for a handmaid. And the king said to his daughter, it is better for thee, my daughter, to be a handmaid in this house than to be a mistress in my house, after we have the evil that befell us on account of this. And Abram arose, and he and all belonging to him went away from Egypt, and Pharaoh ordered some of his men to accompany him, and all that went with him. And Abram returned to the land of Canaan, to the place where he had made an altar, where he at first had pitched his tent. And Lot, the son of Haran, Abram's brother, had a heavy stock of cattle, flocks, and herds and tents, for the Lord was bountiful to them on account of Abram. And when Abram was dwelling in the land of herdsmen of dwelling in the land, the herdsmen of Lot quarreled with the herdsmen of Abram, for their property was too great for them to remain together in one land or in the land. And the land could not bear them on account of their cattle. And when Abram's herdsmen went to feed their flock, they would not go into the fields of the people of the land, but the cattle of Lot's herdsmen did otherwise. For they were suffered to feed in the fields of the people of the land. And the people of the land saw this occurrence daily, and they came to Abram and quarreled with him on account of Lot's herdsmen. And Abram said to Lot, "What is this thou art doing to me, to make me despicable to the inhabitants of the land, that thou orderest thy herdsmen to feed thy cattle in the fields of their people, in the fields of other people?" Dost thou not know that I am a stranger in this land amongst the children of Canaan? And why wilt thou do this to me? And Abram quarreled daily with Lot on account of this. But Lot would not listen to Abram, and he continued to do the same. And the inhabitants of the land came and told Abram. And Abram said unto Lot, "How long wilt thou be to me for a stumbling block with the inhabitants of the land? Now I beseech thee, let there be no more quarreling between us, for we are kinsmen. But I pray thee, separate from me. Go and choose a place where thou mayest dwell with the cattle and all belonging to thee. But keep thyself at a distance from me, thou and thy household." Thou and thy household, you and your people. You and your people. Y'all go over there. Go find you somewhere over there. No, don't make me tell you twice. Oh man. And be not afraid of going from me, for if anyone do an injury to thee, let me know, and I will avenge thy cause for him. Only remove from me. And Abram had spoken all these words to Lot, and Lot arose and lifted up his eyes towards the plain of Jordan. And he saw that the whole land of this plain was well watered and good for man, as well as affording pasture for the cattle. And Lot went to Abram to that place. And Lot went from Abram to that place, and he there pitched. And Abram dwelt in the plain of Mamre, which is in Hebron, and he pitched his tent there. And Abram remained in that place many years. Chapter 16. Abram against the 5 kings. 20:21 a.m. Chedorlaomer attacked Sodom. At that time, Chedorlaomer, king of Elam, sent to all the neighboring kings, to Nimrod, king of Shinar, who was then under his power, and to Tidal, king of Goyim, and to Arioch, king of Eleazar, king of Eliezer, with whom he had made a covenant, saying, "Come up to me and assist me, that we may smite all the towns of Sodom and its inhabitants, for they have rebelled against me these 13 years." And these 4 kings went up with all their camps, about 800,000 men, and they went in as they were, and smote every man they found in their road. And the 5 kings of Sodom and Gomorrah, Shinab, king of Admah, Shemeber, king of Zeboim, Bera, king of Sodom, Bersha, king of Gomorrah, and Bela, king of Zor, went out to meet them, and they all joined together in the valley of Siddim, the valley of Siddim, excuse me. And these 9 kings made war in the valley of Siddim. And the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah were smitten before the king of Elam. And the valley of Siddim was full of lime pits. And the king of Elam pursued the kings of Sodom, and the king of Sodom with their camps fled and fell into the lime pits. And all that remained went to the mountain for safety. And the 5 kings of Elam came after them and pursued them to the gates of Sodom. And they took all that there was in Sodom, and there they plundered all the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah. And they also took Lot, Abram's brother's son, and his property. And they seized all the goods of the cities of captive by them. And I'm trying to push through it, everybody. I'm trying to push through it with this bad connection. Bad. Yeah, we only got 2 more pages, man. The 2 pages, and which will be to the end of 17. So we'll read to the end of. But I apologize for messing up the reading too. It's bothering me. It's bothering me. But we're gonna push through. We're gonna try to push through. And Abram heard this. He rose up with about 318 men that were with him, and he that night pursued these kings and smote them, and they all fell before Abram and his men, and there was none remaining before the 4 kings who fled, and his wife. And when he returned from smiting these kings, he and his men passed the valley of Siddim, where the kings had made war together, had fallen to meet Abram and his men. And Adonizek, I believe if it was somebody else, what is it? Melchizedek. My bad, I missed the whole part. And Bera, king of Sodom, and the rest of his men that were with him went out from the lime pits which they had fallen to meet Abram and his men. And Adonizek, king of Sodom, the same Abram and his men. And Adonizek, king of Sodom, the same was Shem, went out with his men to meet Abram and his people with bread and wine, and they remained together in the valley of Melech. And as Adonizek blessed Abram, and Abram gave him a tenth from all that he had brought from the spoils of his enemies. For as Adonizek was a priest before God. Yeah, that's Melchizedek. Adonizek is what they call him in here. King of Jerusalem. And all the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah who were there with their servants approached Abram and begged him to return them of their servants whom he had made captive, and to take unto himself all the property. And Abram answered the kings of Sodom, saying, as the Lord liveth, who created heaven and earth, and who redeemed my soul from my affliction, and gave them unto my hand, I will not take anything belonging to you, that you may not boast tomorrow, saying, Abram became rich from our property that he saved. Man, hold up. Man, hold up. Man, hold up. For the Lord my God, in whom I trust, said unto me, Thou shalt lack nothing, for I will bless thee in all the works of thy hand. And now therefore, behold, here is all belonging to you. Take it and go. As the Lord liveth, I will not take from you from a living soul down to the shoe tie, down to a shoe tie or thread, accepting the expense of the food of those who went out with me into battle, as also the portions of the men who of the spoil. I don't know what's we're almost there. We are almost there. And the kings of Sodom gave Abram according to all that he had said, and they pressed him to take whatever he chose, but he would not. And he sent away the kings of Sodom and the remainder of their men, and he gave them orders about Lot. And they went to their respective places. And Lot, his brother's son, he also sent away with his property, and he went with them. And Lot returned to his home, to Sodom, and Abram and his people returned to their home, to the plains of Mamre, which is in Hebron. At that time, the Lord again appeared to Abram in Hebron, and he said to him, Do not fear, thy reward is very great before thee, for I will not leave you with. I just lost my place. Oh, there we go. And bless thee, and made thy seed like the stars in heaven, which cannot be not fear. Walk before me and be perfect. (2:26 a.m.) Ruth died. And in the 78th year of the life of Abram, in that year died Ruth, the son of Peleg. And all the days of Ruth were 239 years, and he died. And Sarah, the daughter of Haran, Abram's wife, was still barren in those. For Hagar learned all the ways of Sarai as Sarai taught her. That is, I want to say, Titus 2. Not yet, sir. Not yet, sir. Not yet. Yeah, Titus 2, verse 3. The aged women like they may teach the younger women. I'm trying to see. It's not that one. Yeah, They might reply this too. The aged women likewise, Titus 2, verse 3. The aged women likewise, that they be in behavior as becoming holiness, not false accusers, not given to much wine, teachers of good things, that they may teach the young women to be sober, to love their husbands, to love their children, to be discreet, chaste, keepers at home, good, obedient to their own husbands, that the word of God may be like
That was.
exactly what Sarai did with
That was.
exactly like what Sarah did with Hagar. For Hagar learned all the ways of Sarai as Sarai taught her. She was not in any way deficient in following her good ways. She was not any way deficient from following her good ways. Almost. For Hagar learned all the ways of Sarai as Sarai taught her. She was not in her, that she may bring forth upon my knees, that I may also obtain children through her. 2:20:33 a.m. Abram takes Hagar as a concubine.
Who is it?
And at the end of the 10 years of Abram's dwelling in the land of Canaan, which is the 85th year of Abram's life, Sarai gave Hagar unto him, and Abram his. And when Hagar said that she had conceived, she rejoiced greatly, and her mistress was despised in her eyes. And she said to herself, this can only be that I am better before God than Sarai, my mistress. For all the days that my mistress had been with my Lord, she did not conceive. But me, the Lord has caused in so short of a time to conceive by him. And when Sarai saw that Hagar had conceived by Abram, Sarai was jealous of her handmaid. And Sarai said within herself, this is surely nothing else but that she must be better than I am. You too, man. Leave my stuff alone. Leave my tools alone. Leave my tools alone. You wait at the time when thou didst pray before the Lord for children. Why didst thou not pray on my account, that the Lord should give me seed from thee? Look at that. My account, that the Lord should give me seed from thee. Look at that. Look at that humbug Sarah talking about. How she know he prayed for that? How does she know that he didn't pray for that? She just flipped it on him. After she gave him, she just flipped it on him. After she gave him Hagar, she flipped it on him. Why did you pray for me when you prayed that I will give you children? Even why did you make me give you Hagar? Why? Look what you did. Why did you make me give you Hagar? Why? Look what you made me do. Because you didn't pray for me. Look what you made me do. Get out of here. Ooh. And Sarai said unto Abram, my wrong be upon thee. My bad. My bad. Not pray on my account, that the Lord should give me seed from thee. And when I speak to Hagar in thy presence, she despised my words, because she had conceived, and thou wilt say nothing to her. May the Lord judge between me and thee for what thou hast done to me. And Abram said to Sarai, behold, thy handmaid is in thy hand. Do unto her as it may seem good in thy eyes. My bad. Had fled by well, and he said unto her, do not fear, for I will multiply thy seed, for thou shalt bear a son, and thou shalt call his name Ishmael. Now then, return to Sarai, thy mistress, and submit thyself under her hands. Roi. Bir Lahai Roi. It is between Kadesh and the wilderness of Bered. 20:34 a.m. Ishmael born. And Hagar at that time returned to her master's house. And at the end of the days, Hagar bare a son to Abram. And Abram called his name Ishmael. And Abram was Chapter 7. Rape of the Sabines. 20:39 a.m. Sabine Roman War. In those days, in the 91st year of the life of Abram, embodied themselves in the plain of Canobia. And they built themselves cities there and dwelt by the river Tiber. And the children of Tubal dwelt in, my bad, I'm going to keep going until I finish chapter 17. I'm going to keep going until I finish chapter 17. Bear with me, please. And it was at that time the children of Chittim made war with the children of Tubal. And the children of Chittim, 170 men to fall from the children of Tubal. And at that time the children of Tubal swore to the children of Chittim, saying, you shall not intermarry amongst us, and no man shall give his daughter to any of the sons of Chittim, for all the daughters of Tubal were as the daughters of Tubal. And all who delighted in the beauty of women went to the daughters of Tubal and took wives from them, and sons of them, and kings and princes, who greatly delighted in the beauty for the daughters of Tubal, from the daughters of. And at the end of 3 years, after the Tubal had sworn to the children of Chittim not to give them their daughters for wives, about 20 men of the children of Chittim went to take some of the daughters of Tubal, but they found none. For the children of Tubal kept their oaths not to intermarry with them, and they would not break their oaths. And in the days of harvest, the children of Tubal went into the fields and to get in their harvest. When the young men of Chittim assembled and went to the city of Sabina, and each man took a young woman from the daughters of Tubal, and they came to their city, and they went all over them, they returned to their land. And at the revolution of the year, the children of Tubal went and hired about 10,000 men from those cities to war with the children of Chittim. And the children of Tubal went to war with the children of Chittim to destroy their land and the land and to distress them. And in the engagement of the children of Tubal, and in this engagement, the children of Tubal prevailed over the children of Chittim. The children which they had had by the daughters of Tubal upon the wall which had been built to be before the eyes of the children of Tubal. And the children of Chittim said to them, have you come to make war with your own son? Y'all already. That's fine. We'll go to the trash can later, all right? And the children of Chittim said to them, Have you come to make war with your own sons and daughters? And have we not been considered your own flesh and bone from that time till now? And the children of Tabal heard this. When the children of Tabal heard this, they ceased to make war with the children of Edom, and they went away. And they returned to their cities. Be careful, son. And the children of Chittim at that time assembled and built 2 cities by the sea. And they called one Perta and the other Arizah. 20:47 a.m. Abram's 99th year. Excuse me. It's the last paragraph. I'm almost done. It's the last paragraph right here.
That was chapter. That was chapter.
That will be chapter 17.
Are you done, Daddy?
Almost, son, almost. Let's finish the last chapter, the last paragraph. And Abram, the son of Terah, was then 99 years old. And at that time the Lord appeared to him, and he said to him, I will make my covenant between me and thee, and I will greatly multiply thy seed. And this is the covenant which I make between you and thee. And every male child be circumcised, thou and thy seed after thee. At 8 days old shall it be circumcised. And this covenant shall be an everlasting, this covenant shall be in your flesh for an everlasting covenant. And now, therefore, thy name shall no more be called Abram, but Abraham. And thy wife shall no more be called Sarai, but Sarah. For I will bless you both, and will keep and multiply. Get that sucker.
What's wrong, Daddy?
A bug. I killed him. Another bug. They coming in from that window, man. For I will bless you both, and I will multiply your seed after you, that you shall become a great nation, and kings shall come forth from you. Oh, man. That was the end of chapters. I want to say 14. Yes, sir. I am done. Chapter 14 through chapter 17, man. Of the book, ancient book of Jasher. So we're going to come back next time. Hopefully with better internet connection. And I'll be back on my laptop. I'll try to come back later. Excuse me. I'll try to come back later on this afternoon to see, how it's working. And if it's working, I'll read a part. I'll read a. We'll come back with chapter 18. Circumcision commences. Circumcision commences. So that's it for today. All right, it's it for right now. Of Jasher, chapters 14 through 17.
17.
That's right. 14 through 17 right there. I hope y'all enjoyed it. I hope y'all pushed through it with me. As you can see, I was getting tired. That sleep monster was on me a little bit. And I tried to stop reading whenever I saw that it was trying to reconnect until you got back on. Hopefully it'll record good. That's not how you ask. How do you ask? Nope, it's not I need. How do you ask? I know how you ask. How do you ask? Daddy, can I
have water, please?
Some water, please. Can I have some water, please?
Some water, please.
So yeah, we'll get back with you later. Until then, and hopefully it was something that you can learn and grow from in this reading or in the reading.
That's Mama didn't.
But until next time, man. Shalom, shalom, and shallow out. So we cut it off. And we go make you something.
Eat them sandwich? Eat them sandwich, Daddy? teacher.
Yes, sir.